Oh, okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first Indie Media Hustle episode number one. And right from the start, we have wonderful guests from Los Angeles, Lada Egorova. Lada is a Russian-French director and screenwriter who loves exploring genres and themes in her work. Welcome to the show, Lana. How are you?
Good, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be in this very first episode.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. A little bit background for the you and the audience. There are many kinds of shows and also related to indie films, but I felt along the way that well, Well, we need a little bit more indie kind of media thing, which highlights the wonderful people who are working in various positions in the indie film circles and uh, there's so much talk about big names from the Hollywood and elsewhere. So definitely, indie film circles need more visibility. So yeah, so let's get to it. So those who don't know you, who is Lada Yegorova?
That's a great question. I'm a filmmaker. I was born in Russia. I grew up in France, and then I studied filmmaking in France, in Paris, and then I moved to Los Angeles. I did an exchange program, and I really loved it. That's why I stayed. And the past few years, I've been developing several short films as a writer, as a director. And the past couple of months, I've also dived more into the series world. I wrote and directed two TV pilots, and more recently, I've directed full series, a sci-fi one, a Western one, and now I'm working on more serious projects. And more recently, I've also founded Pocket Cinema, which is a streaming app focused on genre-driven short series and elevated storytelling. We're launching it by the end of this year. It's very exciting. And so that's what I've been working on lately.
Wow, that's a cool thing. So, I'm eager to. Okay, before we dive into the deep end of films, I would love to, and for sure, audience would love to hear. Okay, so where you exactly grew up? Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, the early years? Because that's exciting, where you are coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Russia in this small town called Nabizhny Chelny. It's a small town in the region of Tatarstan. And I grew up there. I lived there until I was 4, and then with my mom, we moved to France, and that's where I lived most of my life. I studied there, and also that's where my passion for films grew up, for arts. And from time to time, I would come back to Russia to visit my family. So I really grew up in between the French culture and also the Russian culture. And then in my town in France, it was also a pretty small town. It's Orleans. It's in the center of France, 1 hour away from Paris. There wasn't back in the days, there wasn't really a film community. Now it is growing and it's actually wonderful. There's some local programs and local filmmakers that are really growing in the region. But back in the days, there wasn't really much. So the dream has always been to go to Paris to study film, but also eventually, of course, I always wanted to go either to the UK or to the US to, be in the film industry. And Los Angeles, of course, was always the big dream.
Yeah. So, If you can tell us, do you remember when exactly you had a first thought? I'm gonna be filmmaker. I want to make films. When was that? And uh, tell us about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was when I was around 13 or 14 years old. When I grew up watching a lot of movies because my parents, we used to go to the theater a lot or just buy lots of DVDs and watch movies pretty much every night. And we had a big collection of DVDs. So I really fell in love with cinema, just and like the experience of going to the theater and watching amazing movies, whatever the genre it was. And at first, I wanted to be an actress because that's usually the first thing that you find out about when you find out about filmmaking. I wanted to do that, so I started acting in little short films. I was background in France in some movie sets, and then I that's where I started noticing the role of the director. And I always also loved telling stories. I used to write a lot of short stories, and progressively I realized that maybe directing and writing was something that I was even more interested in, because then I could create my own worlds, create my own stories, and really build a whole artistic project from the beginning to end than just being a part of a project. So I think it was, yeah, it was pretty much when I was 13, like this desire of making movies or being part of movies grew up. And then progressively I realized that acting is great, but I think I would have even more fun writing and directing.
Yeah. Yeah, so sounds a bit familiar, what's my my personal story, but let's not get there. Uh, so, mm, can you share the, thoughts about your very first, your own project? What was it about, and how was it as an experience? Okay, make a pilot project.
Yeah, my very first short film that I did was when I was 16 actually. I had this friend, she had written a short story, and we decided to transform it into a short film. It was a drama story about this woman who has a disability, because my friend has a disability, and kind of like this, she was all her life she was feeling different and out of place, and so we kind of created a little script and then made a movie out of her little story. So that was my first experience, and we shot it in black and white, and then in the end it turns into colors as she accepts her place in the world. That was my first experience, and we shot it with a little camera that I had, that was like a really cheap little photo camera that would also take videos. We just filmed it, I think, in one day. It was really fast. We didn't know really what we were doing. We just learned along the way. And after that, the other projects that I started doing was when I went to film school in Paris, and I did some couple of short films for the Nikon Film Festival. Every year they have like this little competition that you need to make a 90 seconds short film based on the theme. So I did a few of those, and then I did a few of my own projects while I was studying in film school with other film student friends. And that was a great experience to just start getting on sets and doing our own projects and kind of figuring out, okay, how do you actually direct? How do you make your own projects with what you have and the people around you?
Okay, I would love to hear more about that film school. Uh, uh, was there international students, mainly from France, or what was the best thing? Uh, let's say three best things,
Yeah,
at the school.
so it was mostly French students there, but we did have a couple of foreign filmmakers. I know we had a girl from Brazil. We had another filmmaker, film student from the UK, I think. And I think my favorite my favorite things about going to this school specifically, we had some really great teachers, and we had this amazing teacher that really taught us everything about film history, not just from French film history, but also the US. And I think that was such an important part of my education as a filmmaker, just to learn about film history and how filmmakers throughout history made their movies, and how what different movements impacted the film history. And we also had some great classes where we were doing film analysis. So the teacher would play an extract of a movie, maybe 20 minutes, 20 minutes of a movie, and then we would have to write a whole essay about it, or we would have to answer a question into an essay. And that was really interesting too, and a great exercise, because we were really trying to understand what are the choices that the filmmaker does and how they create a certain emotion or a certain feeling, or how they're conveying the theme of their movie by using different filmmaking techniques. So that was something really nice. And the last thing that I really liked about this school is that even though we didn't have a lot of practical classes, we had, but it was very basic and it wasn't as much. It was more based on theory and analysis, our classes. But we did have we as students, we there was this little community that organized every month a little film competition where you have to make a little film, and at the end of each month everybody screens their movie, and you're picked out, your crew members are picked out randomly, so everybody signs up, and then at the beginning of the month someone would pick the names, and then that would create film teams, and then we would all make a movie based on the theme. And then at the end of the month, we would have to screen it. So that was really fun.
Ah, that sounds awesome. Awesome. So, if you look at the back, the very first uh, project you did, and the first couple of projects you have done, uh, were there any big surprises, and uh, something you didn't? Oh, I hate that stuff, or oh, I love that stuff. Was there, how was your experience?
Yeah, I think something that I did not like rewatching my first movies was some of them were very melodramatic in a way that I think they were just like very depressed. Some of them were very depressing and too dark in the tone. It was just full on drama, which didn't work really well, because if you just do serious scenes for a whole movie, then it's just too tense for the audience. But something that I did really enjoy though is that I rewatched one of my first film, and it was a film noir inspired short film. So it was shot in black and white, and it kind of had this like strongest cinematography and framing that film noirs are typically known for. And I was just impressed by how strong the vision was there and how experimental I went. And when I rewatched it recently, I realized that that it was actually a pretty cool movie, and that lately I I realized that I've been like really following some rules, and that was one movie, that short film, where I didn't ask myself about following rules. I was just experimenting with the genre, and I felt like so much freedom. And rewatching it, it just reminded me of like don't forget to experiment, like keep experimenting, and keep that freedom of like trying things and pushing it a little far, because actually like that's where your style like really shows, more than when you try to do what others do or something that's more conventional.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's a nice bridge of, okay, if you think of uh, other filmmakers, perhaps writers, directors, actors, uh, can you share, who are the, the most gigantic figures, who you look up to. Oh, they are great. Who's got the biggest impact on for you and your career? Is there any?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now I can definitely think of two. The first one is Andrei Tarkovsky because he's Russian and I'm Russian, so his movies have a really impactful impact on me. And I'm just always impressed by how he's able to really use cinema as a poetic language. Whatever he films, it has such a deeper and more sacred meaning and feeling to it than just, oh, it's just a horse or it's just a river, it's just water. He just everything that he films, he gives such a importance and such a sacred aspect to it, and I think that the way he mastered the poetic visual language of cinema and the music, the sounds, it's just absolutely beautiful. Like he's like a real poet. I think he has ways of touching you that not everyone can really make you feel those things. And sometimes you're feeling something and you don't know what it is, but it's just Tarkovsky magic playing on you. So I really love his cinema and the poetic poetry coming out of every of his movie and every frame that he creates. And then the other filmmaker that I really love is Denis Villeneuve, Canadian filmmaker who has become very big the past several years, who has really made it into Hollywood. But what I really enjoy is that he still kept his own voice as a filmmaker, and even though he's been working on those Hollywood blockbuster movies lately, you can still see that he hasn't compromised his voice as a filmmaker. I love how he doesn't hesitate to use wide shots, to use silence, how sometimes his editing is not is takes its time. Even though in Hollywood we're used to like fast, everything goes fast in the blockbusters, but he's still able to kind of incorporate his own language and his vision as a director even when he's making those expensive movies. So that's uh that's directors that I really admire. And then the third one that I'm gonna mention is Billy Wilder, just because when I was in film school and we're studying film history, American cinema, that was one of the filmmakers that we studied. We studied his movies and we analyzed the way he used camera movements and framing. Um, and I just really like rewatching his movies and kind of analyzing how he chooses everything from framing to also the editing to really create a certain perspective or kind of sometimes trick the audience. And I think he's such a great filmmaker who was able to do different genres and be a master of all of them. So really enjoy also watching and rewatching his movies.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm intrigued. You have experience of France and US. So, uh, if you compare, French and other European films and filmmaking and Americans, what are the biggest differences you can share, what you have spotted?
Yeah, I think the first main difference is that cinema is viewed differently, is considered as something different in both continents. In Europe and in France, it's really considered as an art form, and you can really see that because, the governments, local organizations are really helping, supporting more filmmakers, specifically smaller filmmakers, artsy art house directors, or even short films. There's a lot of grants and support for short films. While in the US, it's more a business, it's more an industry. So you have some grants, but not as much. And most of the producers that you are going to talk to, they're more interested in commercial movies that you're able to prove that your movie is going to be commercially viable because you have a big director attached, or you have a big producer, or you have a great casting, or that you have a way of recouping the investments, that the investing part. Hey.
Okay. I hope they didn't break up the cables or something, you know. So great. Sorry about that, Lada.
No, no
Sorry, audience.
problem. No worries.
Okay, wait. Yeah, yeah. You were telling about differences, you know. Is there, if we little bit check on that subject,
Yeah.
what are the features, characteristics from European side you would like to see more on a perhaps in the US and a vice versa?
Yeah. Well, I definitely love if there were more public grants and public support in the US to make films, um and and I wish that the movies were seen more as art pieces, which I mean they are in the indie world considered more, but uh the big Hollywood studios don't really care about that. And so that's kind of a shame. But on the other side, I wish that for Europeans, but specifically France, I wish they were taking more risks with funding projects that were from different genres and other than drama and comedy. I know France has been doing really good in horror, but feel like they could be great into trying to get more funding filmmakers who are doing thrillers or adventure or even sci-fi, which is something they're still very shy about, but that in the US it's very big. Action films, thrillers are a really good way of for indie filmmakers to break in, or it's sales agents or distributors really like those movies, and sci-fi is doing also pretty good and is more developed than in France.
Yeah, this is really interesting because some point I started to research. Okay, what are actually the most popular genres, and especially on indie film circles, and yeah, horror, not surprised,
Yeah.
but actually thrillers and sci-fi. But the one thing was there's political thrillers,
Yeah.
and then I have experience, talking with the let's say Canadian producers that yeah. So you want to do a drama? That's not gonna fly. Even here in the drama, but no. Let's not. We are not interested.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So
Yeah.
can you tell us, this year, what sort of project you've been doing? You told in the beginning a bit, but can you dive a little bit deeper, and
Yeah,
what's coming
absolutely.
next?
Absolutely. So yeah, this year 2025 I've been focused on three series. One is a sci-fi series, The Journey to Origin. It's about this woman in this post-apocalyptic world who crosses paths with an android who is looking for her creator. And together they will look for the android's creator, but at the same time they will be hunted down by bounty hunters who are looking to capture this android. And then the second project that I did was also a short series, but a Western this time. and that was we shot that in summer, and this is a story of Ruji, a samurai who, after the Japan's downfall, comes to the West, looking for a new life, hoping to start anew. But of course, he's in the land of the outlaws, and there is no honor. And his katana is gonna get stolen. And the story is about him going on this journey to find the man who stole his katana, and also try to survive in the West. So these are the two series that are in post-production now. I also shot a romantic comedy, actually. Now I just remembered a romantic comedy. And now in the upcoming weeks, I'm to finish off the year, I'm shooting another series, film noir, black and white inspired series, detective series about two detectives who have these two murder investigations to investigate, one in New York, one in LA, and then they find out that their cases are intertwined and linked more than they think it would, and they will see that it's not just murder cases, but it's linked to a bigger conspiracy, in a way, a bigger thing, and there is a bigger bad guy hiding behind all this and pulling the strings in the dark. So that's kind of 2025, and then 2026, the goal is we have other series planned for Pocket Cinema, other short series in other genres. We have an action, we have a thriller, we have a pirate film. And then I also want to, beside that, I have some feature projects, specifically two. I definitely want to shoot one of those to in 2026, the indie way also. Um, so yeah, that's what's coming up.
Okay, cool, interesting project. And I I was about, okay, I want to ask about the katana, but you are, yeah, Japanese history is very fascinating. So yeah, cool. So so if you think about a further ahead, can you share us what are your goals? Where would you like to be? What sort of films you would like to make in the following years?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the following years, I definitely want to keep working with Pocket Cinema, developing our series, and also develop other indie filmmakers projects for the platform. And then I have a couple of other features that I'm kind of pitching right now, and trying to get done. I have a horror, body horror, that I want to do. I'm not a big fan of horror usually, but I've kind of fell in love with this concept, this movie idea. So I definitely want to do that. And then I have an action film, because I've always wanted to do a action with a lead female actress. So that's a bigger one for sure. That takes place in Miami. So that's another project that I really want to work on and develop. And then yeah, I love exploring different genres, even though I like drama too a lot, but I definitely want to do more sci-fi, action, thriller, or even an adventure movie seems very fun.
Oh, cool, cool. I like that because there's cool stuff you can do in a different genres. And
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's it keeps you fresh. You don't start
Yeah.
with one thing. It's a filmmaking. and
Yeah, it's the
anyway,
whole thing.
yeah. So okay, probably what is very interesting subject and a big dilemma for especially all the newcomers. Okay, where the hell you find the funding for the projects? Yeah. Yeah, so this is really interesting because I recently had a, I wouldn't call it a, clear debate, but Finnish journalist who's very much tied to Finnish government-run agency, Finnish Film Foundation, and
Yeah.
uh, it was funny. It was through the LinkedIn. Uh, she had a very much what I call the old-fashioned way that well, the feature films are done with the one way that okay, uh, all the financing, and okay, there needs to be a big enough star, okay, yeah, and
Yeah.
director, and it was kind of like, okay, well, what do you little indie people, well, I guess you can have a hobby, kind of thing. And it was amusing because if we look at the back, Rodriguez, Christopher Nolan, Duplass brothers, and how they actually started their career. And Duplass brothers, great examples that they didn't just do a one extremely low budget, what you can call it, almost non-budget film, but many.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what are your thoughts? Have you come across of that sort of thing that okay, it's like fighting against the windmills,
Yeah, no, definitely. I did come across when I was funding one of my short films, I did come across some producers who had this very strict and limited vision, and they kept telling me that this movie is too expensive, that we would need to raise so much money more than I had so far, that it would be too hard, that would be impossible, that would have to do this and that, and then all it took it was to find a French producer who just believed in the project and who were like, yeah, no, we can with that amount that you got so far, we can totally make it happen. And like the solution was just to find the right person and not find 30,000 K more or anything like that. But I think, yeah, there is still this big gap between independent filmmakers who are really able and resourceful to make anything happen with such a small budget, and then more old school producers who cannot make a movie for less than 3 million or 30 million. And so in Hollywood right now, you're having this difference where you have those very expensive studio movies coming out in theaters and they keep losing money. And then they're wondering, they're blaming audiences and everything for not being able to recoup their expensive movies. And then you have indie filmmakers who are using social media, who are doing brand partnerships, who are building an audience, and then finding ways of bringing to independent theaters their movies, just trying to like find other ways of financing and building their audience. So it's really interesting to see how those two spaces are completely separate, but how I think now Hollywood and bigger studios are should really start looking at what independent filmmakers and creators are doing, because they figure out something that I think Hollywood is not quite understanding yet, and they're losing a lot of money while those independent creators are finding smart ways of getting their projects financed, and some even can like make a living out of it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And because the way I see the Hollywood grew very huge, huge place, and uh, I would say very bureaucratic place
Yeah.
in many sense, lots of gatekeepers, and uh, that's the I as a Finnish person, I compare to okay, what happened to Nokia? The
Yeah, that's
past,
true.
once biggest cell phone producer seller, and okay, when it's it jammed a complete stagnation. So
Yeah.
it's actually interesting to see what's going on Hollywood. And for example, my TikTok feed is flooding all sort of Hollywood people right now, and uh, most of them actually are still trying to do things, very much old-fashioned way, uh, which is not working so well, and it's not very, definitely
Yeah.
cost efficient
Yeah.
way to do. But yeah, it's interesting turmoil going on. So. What about, have to ask because AI is a big issue in everywhere. What are your thoughts about AI related to film industry and how you see it, what sort of thoughts you have about that?
Yeah, I don't know how it is in Europe, but AI is already here and in the US, and it's being talked about, and every day you have these new companies building these platforms or these ways of or even building entire movies or like generating movie stars or fake influencers or things like that. So AI is already very present in Hollywood. I mean, it's around Hollywood and it's starting to enter Hollywood. You have agencies, you have studios, really like already signing contracts with AI companies to explore more. I think AI is a tricky question because it's linked to so many there's like ethical problems. There's the copyright problem, of course. I think there are ways of using AI that are useful for independent filmmakers, like you can do a VFX shot that you probably would have never been able to do because you cannot make a building explode, or you cannot have a crowd of 1,000 people in a stadium that you can just ask 1,000 people to be in the background of your shot. So there are ways that it can really help indie filmmakers to elevate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think audiences will. I think audiences will get tired pretty quickly of those fake AI actors because there's no connection. Like we go to see movies because we connect to the actors, we connect to the emotion that's there, and fake people, it's just I don't think it's gonna last very long. It's a trend that is starting now and that will probably grow, but making everything fake, I don't think audiences will be really interested in that. And maybe that's even better for independent filmmakers who are really out there making original content, because then it's going to be flooded with all this AI content, and then the independent filmmakers who are making movies with real people and real stories that they've written are going to stand out more easily, maybe. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my thought exactly. That yeah, I've been using certain amount of certain programs for last couple of years, yeah, daily basis. But the way I see it is in some ways those are helpful tools, but uh, I wouldn't myself to start to make whole movies just with the AI, and because I value and I see that it's more and more that people value authentic things, and uh, yeah, fake is always fake. So
Yeah.
I feel the same way than you, that okay, this is actually great opportunity for indie filmmakers to uh, stand up and be visible from the
Yeah.
crowd, making some brave moves, and mm, not so mainstream stuff, which is great. Mm. So okay, let's start to wrap this up, and if you would like to give any last words for the indie filmmakers, uh, advices, what would you say to them?
I think I would say to not give up on whatever films they're trying to make, and to kind of see the limitations not are as limitations, but try to change their way of thinking, and try to see how can my limitations can actually determine my style as a filmmaker. How can I use them as a creative force rather than an obstacle? And I think I know that right now it's very hard. It's very hard in Hollywood, for sure for filmmakers in Hollywood right now with what's going on in the industry. But I think overall it's always been hard for filmmakers all over the world, especially indie filmmakers. But I think what is happening right now is like the creators economy and social media is really interesting. And I think there's a real opportunity for maybe a new independent era to rise from that in the upcoming months and years. So I think, as long as you find a way to get to your audience, and to make your movie, you don't really need big Hollywood studios or big producers. In the end, they're just gatekeepers. They're not even who you're trying to reach. Who you want to reach is your audience. So just focus on how to reach your audience and how to make your movie, and you'll do great if you can make that. And now you can reach your audience through social media marketing, through community events. There's different ways than just, finding a producer and a distributor and releasing in a big 5,000 theaters around the world or something like that. There's other ways that you can find to make your projects be seen by people.
Hmm. Excellent. So, yeah, before we stop, okay, I stop recording soon, but if you can stick around a little bit, I want to exchange a couple
Yeah,
of words with you. So,
absolutely.
ladies and gentlemen, you were checking out the very first episode of Indie Media Hustle and Lada Egorova from LA, and we definitely gonna hear more from her, and well, hopefully sometime soon we're gonna have another interview of you because you have a lot of things ongoing. So yeah, so and fresh episodes are coming regular basis, and there's interesting people lining up for the next episodes. So stick around, folks. Episodes you can find on our YouTube channel and also on LinkedIn and well other social media channels. There's gonna be stuff about episodes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.